Welcome to Airgun Extra, brought to you in association with Crackshot, the Southwest's premier airgun centre and ranges. In this week's episode, I'm taking a close look at the Bullpup version of the Reximex Lyra, but before that I'm targeting destructive grey squirrels from the cover of a woodshed. Right, we're out on what should be quite an interesting squirrel shoot this afternoon. Now, we're on a farm where I do quite a lot of rabbit shooting, but the farmer has said to me that they're having problems with grey squirrels around the garden and also in the attic of the farmhouse. Now, initially I had a bit of a look around and I didn't really think there was anywhere I could really safely shoot them around the garden. So I've set up a feeder close to the woodshed. My theory being that I can shoot from the cover of the woodshed. The squirrels around here should be quite bold because they're used to people coming and going. Now, the reaction to the feeder was very, very slow, which has been all too familiar this year. There's been a lot of natural food around. Took the squirrels a long time to home in on it. I actually came here a couple of weeks ago, managed to shoot one. It made a terrible mess of my feeder. It did the usual dangling headshot squirrel, bled all over the feeder. But it was the only one to visit that session. Again, I think it was because there was just so much natural food around. Bit more time's passed now. The peanuts are going down very, very quickly. So I assume that more squirrels are onto that feeder now, so I'm feeling a little bit more optimistic about this session. But before we settle in, I will just quickly run through the kit that I'm using. So the gun is the FX Impact M4, sub 12 foot-pound. It's obviously great for shooting in relatively confined conditions. This one's 22 caliber, and I'm running it on JTS dead center pellets. It's the 16 grain version. It gets on really, really well with them, very accurate, and it's nice hard-hitting setup. I've also paired the gun with the Eagle Vision Cam Helia moderator, which just does a great job of silencing it. It is very, very quiet with that on it. So the scope is the Element Optics Helix. Now this is a lovely, bright, crystal clear scope, but I have noticed that some of the scope cam footage that I've shot through it, it's got a bit of glare in it. So I've put the sunshade on for this session. Now in all honesty, I actually think it's light creeping in through the back of the scope cam, but we'll see what the sunshade does and see if it makes any difference to the quality of the footage that we're getting through it, because you know, what I see through here without the scope cam is absolutely awesome. And in terms of scope mounting, as ever, I've got the scope held on with Sports Match scope mounts. So that's the main items of kit. We'll get ourselves settled in and hopefully shoot a few squirrels with it. That is annoying, but I'm at least pleased that I didn't fluff the shot, because I was really thinking about pulling the trigger just as that squirrel moved, and in all honesty, I'm pretty sure that it will soon be back for more peanuts. That is more like it. Now, I usually wait for squirrels to take a peanut and settle before I think about taking this shot, but after missing my chance with that previous one, I wanted to really make sure that I made this one count. Now, I mentioned at the outset that I didn't really think it was safe to shoot the squirrels around the garden, but I actually think that the spinney where I'm targeting them here by the side of the woodshed is where they're living and where they're coming from. So, all being well, I reckon we've got our feeder where the main concentration of squirrels actually is. And another one. Now, I did initially wonder if the peanuts had started to go down more quickly because the birds had moved on to them, but from what we've seen so far, I'm feeling pretty hopeful that it's because we've got more squirrels around here now. Well, that one was really settled to feed, and it also settled on the feeder very well after I shot it, and I was wondering for a moment if it was actually going to be stuck there. We're getting closer to that time now where the light's going to start fading, and going from past experience, grey squirrels tend to feed a little bit harder towards last light. They want to fill up ready for the long cold night ahead, so hopefully there's one or two more to be had yet. Go. As I was hoping, that one was in the fading light. That's about 25 metres to the feeder from where I'm sitting, so I'm able to aim straight at them, which is a great help when it comes to landing those shots absolutely smack on. I think we will wrap it up now. I do think we've still got probably a half chance of seeing another one visiting, but we're running out of light, mostly for the main camera, so we'll wrap it up here. I've got to say it's gone better than I'd expected. As I said, my previous visit here, only one squirrel. They're definitely onto the peanuts now, and that means that I'll be coming back again soon and hopefully bagging more of them. The grey squirrels are definitely back on the munch, and I've already been back and had more from that spot. Right then, next up it's the Reximex Lyra BP. What I have here is the Reximex Lyra BP or Bullpup. Now, I've been really impressed with the previous standard and carbine versions of this PCP airgun. They've just struck a brilliant balance between pricing and performance. Now, these guns are distributed in the UK by Rangerite, and this one has a recommended retail price of just £420, so it's definitely on the right track when it comes to sensible pricing. The key point of Bullpup design is to create a compact airgun, and this one is so compact that it only just fits on my gun stand. It's just 635 millimeters long. Now, it's also comparatively light. It's tipping the scales at under 3.2 kilos, so An airgun like this really lends itself to shooting in confined spaces, maybe even carrying out pest control from the cab of a truck, but also being relatively light, it's also perfect for carrying on those longer stalking sessions. I think this is a really nice looking little gun, and I really like the matte flash-free finish of its Turkish walnut stock. Now the fore end is sufficiently long to create a decent holding point for your leading hand, and it's also adorned with a removable Picatinny accessory rail and a QD stud. I like how the trigger guard is incorporated into the woodwork of the stock, and it flows back into a brilliant pistol grip. Now it's really nice and steep, and that results in terrific trigger attack, and it's also really nicely contoured for a very comfortable hold. On top of that, you've got patches of nice grippy stippling on both sides. Behind the grip, the Ambidextrous stock is very straight until it runs back into that familiar Lyra curve at the butt. Now the butt is finished with a no frills hard rubber pad, which is very grippy and locks nicely into the shoulder. Now at the butt section, you also have a rear QD stud for quick and secure sling attachment. So you've got a plastic cheek support which provides a comfortable contact point and decent eye scope alignment. Now there's a little brass screw at the back, and if you slacken that off, there is also a bit of height adjustment. Now there's another clever adjustment system on here. You can see that it sits on a Picatinny rail. Now if you give the button at the front a squeeze, you can actually slide it back and forth to set it in whatever position suits you best. Build quality appears to be very, very good. So it's got a very neat black anodized finish, which, like the woodwork, is flash free and therefore shouldn't attract any unwanted attention from your quarry in the field. Now you can see this gun is equipped with a Picatinny type scope rail, and that gives you about 220 millimeters of clamping space. Now I was a little bit concerned about just how stable it would be with so much forward reach and such a small contact point. However, it feels to be pretty rigid. The barrel is fully shrouded, and that shroud gives the gun a nice chunky look, but it doesn't provide a great deal of sound suppression, and this little PCP actually has quite a bite. Now that's no great problem, because if you remove the front cap, you've got a 1/2 inch UNF thread for silencer attachment. The only thing you need to be mindful of is that it's likely that you'll have to remove the silencer in order to remove the front cap for refilling. The Lyra BP comes supplied with a single shot tray and 2 magazines, which each hold 14 pellets in this 177 caliber version. Now this gun is also available in .22 caliber, and I understand that there's also a .25 version in the pipeline. Now these are really great little magazines. They're straightforward to load and they're very kind to ammo. So to load them, all you do is, with the clear faceplate facing you, rotate that plate clockwise all the way until it stops on the first chamber. Then, with your finger at the back to prevent the pellet from falling all the way through, drop a pellet nose first into that first chamber. Now that then holds the inner section in place. You then rotate the clear plate anti-clockwise back the way it came, dropping a pellet nose first into each chamber as you go until it's gone all the way around and it's full. The cocking and loading mechanism is driven by a very positive side lever action, which has a long drop down handle, and it's actually got a sprung mechanism that starts to kick it back into that rearward stroke. Now it can't be reversed, and this gun's configuration does mean that it's positioned quite far back, but that said, I found it comfortable enough to use on the range and in the field. Most importantly, it keeps the shots coming quickly and reliably, and worked without any hitches during my weeks of testing. Now I've said before that bullpup triggers can feel a bit spongy, and that is because of their necessary extended linkage. Now this problem is usually most apparent on more affordable airguns, but I'm delighted to say that the trigger on the Lyra BP is actually very good and very responsive. So it's got a match type blade that's adjustable for height and angle. Now the two-stage mechanism is probably better than those that I've experienced on some bullpups, costing twice the price. Straight out of the box, the first stage is fairly short, but it comes to an obvious enough stop point, and that is followed by a clean and very predictable second stage break. The safety switch is positioned just in front of the trigger blade. Now I've said before that I prefer to have safety catches located a bit further away from the trigger, but there's no arguing with just how easy this one is to access where it is. You push it back into the safe position and then simply nudge it forwards when you're ready to shoot. As you can see, the Lyra BP is a cylinder airgun and maximum fill pressure is 200 bar. Onboard pressure is displayed on a very clear gauge on the right hand side of the gun. Refilling is a very simple procedure. All you need to do is snap the cap off the front of the cylinder to expose the inlet and then couple up with the supplied connector. The air cylinder isn't huge, and that is because this airgun has been designed for compact handling over massive air reserves. Nonetheless, in 177 caliber you can expect about 100 shots per fill, and in 2.2 that will increase to about 115 shots. Now this one's running at 11.2 foot-pounds. It isn't regulated, so there is a subtle power curve, but shot-to-shot consistency is remaining within 7 feet per second over a 10-shot string, so it is still pretty consistent. Now you have got a power adjustment dial positioned just in front of the magazine. That could prove useful if you want to wind down the muzzle energy, maybe for close range ratting or backyard plinking. As I've said, I've been really impressed with the Lyra in its previous guises, so I had pretty high expectations of this one on the range, and it didn't disappoint. It's certainly got the sort of accuracy that you would want to carry out humane pest control over sensible ranges. So I've been running it on the 7.9 grain Crossman domed pellets. With those at 30 metres, it's shooting nice tight cloverleaf groups, and at 40 metres it's still making absolute mincemeat of 30mm steel targets. So that is the Reximex Lyra BP or Bullpup. So this tough and very pointable little Turkish airgun offers fast handling for just a little over £400. Now it's also a nice looking gun, and with its accuracy and comparatively refined trigger, it offers a level of performance that certainly exceeds its modest price tag. So if you're looking for a Bullpup PCP for maybe pest control or informal target shooting and don't want to spend a fortune, this could be exactly what you're looking for.
The Great British Shooting Show, held on the 13th to the 15th of February 2026 at the NEC Birmingham. Book tickets online at shootingshow.co.uk.
We're out of time, but as ever, we'll be back with more in 2 weeks. Thanks to Crackshot. There's a link to their website in the show description, and thank you for tuning in. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. As I said, we're back with more in a fortnight. Until then, you can find loads more free content on our website, airgunextra.com. So, until the next time, enjoy your shooting and stay safe.